A man lives as property under Roman law, carrying a lasting disability whose cause the sources cannot confirm, subject to an owner who may sell him at will. And yet, without bitterness, he insists that he himself is free, and that the man who legally owns him is the true slave. How could that possibly be true? To understand this deliberate inversion, we must first understand what slavery actually meant within the institutions of Rome. Under Roman law, a slave was not a person but a thing, res, a piece of property, listed alongside livestock and household tools. He could be bought, sold, inherited, and beaten. He held no independent legal personhood, no recognized standing to refuse or to consent. Into this documented legal reality, around the middle of the 1st century, a boy was born far away in Hierapolis, in the region of Phrygia. We call him Epictetus. He was carried to Rome, into the household of a powerful imperial freedman named Epictetus, closely tied to the emperor. Ancient tradition holds he lived with a serious disability, a lame leg. Whether from injury or deliberate punishment, the surviving sources cannot settle. Imagine the daily arithmetic of such a life. No legal ownership of your body, your time, your future, or even your own name. It is the most literal unfreedom a human being can suffer, and it is exactly here in bondage that our story begins its strange turn. For Epictetus, whatever his cruelty, did something unusual. He permitted this slave to study philosophy, an education that would shape everything that followed. His teacher was Musonius Rufus, one of the most respected Stoics in Rome, a demanding, unsentimental mind whose rigor Epictetus would carry forward. And there, still legally a thing owned by another, still property under Roman law, the young man began to draw a line no chain could cross. On one side, he placed what he called things up to us, our judgments, our desires, and the assent we choose to give or withhold. On the other side, everything else, the body, wealth, reputation, social status, and even legal freedom itself, all conditions imposed from without. The master, Epictetus reasoned, could command the body and its labor, could sell or punish it, but the faculty that judges remained his own. Here an honest objection must be raised, and we will not rush past it, for the difficulty is real and deserves patience. Isn't this simply a story the powerless tell themselves, a consolation, a way to endure suffering rather than actually to end it? Doesn't calling the mind free risk excusing the whip that falls on the back, softening an injustice that ought instead to be resisted? That charge deserves a full hearing, and later we will test this philosophy against its very hardest cases, including the reality of bodily harm. But notice first what Epictetus is not claiming. He is not saying the pain is unreal, nor that the injustice done to a slave is small. He is asking a narrower, sharper question. Within all this suffering and constraint, what part genuinely answers to my own will? His answer would outlast his own bondage. Freedom begins in examining our impressions carefully before we allow them to harden into settled judgments. By impressions, he meant the raw appearances that first strike the mind, a threat, an insult, a loss, before we judge or interpret them. Between the appearance and our verdict upon it lies a narrow gap. In that fragile gap, he insisted, the whole of human freedom lies. We should be careful about the source of these ideas, for Epictetus, as far as we know, wrote nothing philosophical down himself. What survives are the Discourses and the Handbook, compiled early in the 2nd century from lecture notes by his devoted student Arrian. So we hear this teacher through another man's ear and memory, a standing reminder to hold our interpretation with real humility. Yet the central claim comes through unmistakably across that distance, and it grows only stranger, not simpler, the closer we look at it. A slave who fears nothing, he suggests, may be freer than the master who trembles at every possible loss. We will test that surprising claim now. Begin with the line he drew, the distinction his students would remember. Some things he taught are up to us, most things simply are not. Up to us are our judgments, our intentions, our choices to assent or refuse. This narrow faculty alone, he insisted, is truly free. Not up to us are the body, property, reputation, the opinions of others, and most provocatively for him, legal status itself. He learned this framework while still enslaved in Rome, permitted by his owner Epictetus to study under the prominent Stoic teacher Musonius Rufus. Picture the strangeness of that classroom. A slave sits learning from a respected teacher that his master owns his body but never his assent. The distinction is meant to be precise, not merely poetic. Externals arrive on their own, whether we call them good or bad is our act. An impression appears, a threat, an insult, a looming loss. Between that impression and our judgment about it lies a small, unowned space. In that space, Epictetus locates freedom itself, not in escaping the chain, which he could not, but in refusing to let it rule the mind. Now the honest objection we cannot dodge. Isn't this simply a consoling story a broken, dependent man tells himself to endure his cage? If you truly cannot change your condition, then calling it indifferent may be less hard-won wisdom than a deep wound quietly learning to numb itself. We should sit with that objection rather than rush past it, since it deserves genuine honesty. His answer, though, is more demanding than any comfort. He does not say suffering is pleasant, nor that the chain is illusion. He says the chain cannot reach the judging self within him. Tested against the hardest case, the lame leg he carried, whatever its disputed cause, for the rest of his long life. He treats the body as something merely lent, not truly owned, a vessel the world may damage while the will remains entirely his. Not indifference to pain itself, but a steady refusal to let pain dictate the final verdict of who and what he actually is. Tested again with the sale, a person could be bought, transported, and handed to a stranger like an ordinary piece of furniture. Under Roman law, the slave was res, a thing, property without any independent legal personhood, owned outright and subject to the master's whip. Yet the buyer, Epictetus argues, acquires only the body. The assent inside it, the ruling faculty, was never once on the table for sale. Tested a third time, Domitian expelled the philosophers from Rome in AD 9, and Epictetus, though likely free by then, was himself banished. He carried his teaching to Nicopolis in Greece and opened a school that flourished. The exile could relocate his body, but never his mind. Now guard against a modern misreading. This is not passive resignation, not a shrug at every injustice, not the counsel to accept whatever comes. Correctly using impressions is active, strenuous work, the constant labor of examining each judgment carefully before deciding whether to grant it your consent. And remember, we meet this through Arrian's notes compiled from his lessons. The teaching reaches us secondhand, urging patience and interpretive care. Bring it into your own life. A colleague's harsh criticism lands, and something in you flares up instantly before you decide anything at all. The words spoken are not up to you, but the story you tell yourself about those words, that inner space, remains entirely yours. Consider delay a decision withheld, a message left unanswered. The waiting itself belongs to the world, the dread you feel belongs only to you. Consider loss of status, a title gone, a role dissolved overnight. He would ask you what exactly was ever genuinely and securely yours. None of this, he grants, makes the loss painless. It relocates the question entirely, not what happened to you, but how you will judge it. Here the paradox sharpens into an inversion. The master who trembles at losing his wealth is governed by the very things he claims to command. Fear had made him property of his own possessions, while the slave who feared nothing on this reading walked strangely, quietly, unowned. But we must be honest here. Doesn't this reversal risk flattering the sufferer, consoling the mind while leaving the whip exactly where it always was? The objection is fair, and scholars still press it today. Epictetus never sought to abolish slavery as a legal and economic institution. Instead, he reinterpreted it. Any life ruled by externals, he taught, is a kind of servitude, whatever its legal status may happen to be. Modern readers rightly note the ethical cost involved. A philosophy that consoles the enslaved can also quiet the urgent demand for justice. So we should not sand this tension down. The evaluation remains genuinely open and debated, and Epictetus would not have us pretend otherwise. Yet test his claim against the hardest fact of his own body. Tradition consistently holds that one of his legs was lame. Whether this came from deliberate cruelty or from accident, the sources do not conclusively say. The disability itself, however, is treated as settled. He did not deny the pain at all. He asked only which part of it belonged to his own judgment and which to circumstance. His body could be injured, the exact cause of his lameness remains uncertain. He argued that another person still could not command his judgments. This is the line that no chain ever crossed: judgment, assent, desire, precisely what he called the things that are up to us. Everything else, the body, the sail, the master's whim, he placed firmly on the far side of that line, beyond control. Tested again against banishment. When Domitian expelled the philosophers from Rome in 89, Epictetus left the capital and settled in distant Nicopolis. The emperor could command his location by decree. He could not command whether Epictetus would arrive there defeated or arrive with his judgment intact. In Nicopolis in northwestern Greece, he built a school. Students came from across the empire to hear a former slave teach freedom. And here we must be precise about what actually survives. Epictetus himself wrote nothing down. We owe every surviving word to his student Arrian. The Discourses and the Handbook are Arrian's compiled records of what he heard in that school, a teaching voice reaching us at one remove. That distance genuinely matters. It means we meet the teacher through an attentive listener and should read the central paradox with care, not credulity. Read carefully, the teaching is not passive resignation at all. Freedom, for him, lies precisely in the correct and disciplined use of our impressions. An impression arrives an insult, a diagnosis, a sudden loss. The unfree mind swallows the whole thing at once and simply calls it fate. The free mind pauses instead. It asks whether the thing itself, or only our hasty verdict about it, has truly wounded us at all. This is disciplined effort, not surrender. It is the hardest labor there is, performed inside a body that Roman law could legally buy and sell. Now the reveal the whole life was building toward. His freedom, as he taught it, was never the mere absence of the physical chain. It was the refusal to let external, chained things define him, and the choice to keep the one province of judgment that remained still his. And the master, by this reasoning, the man who feared losing wealth, rank, and reputation, was quietly owned by each of them in turn. The slave who feared nothing walked lighter than the man who legally owned him. That startling inversion is the beating heart of it. Now turn the lens toward yourself. You are legally free. No one may sell you, and no imperial edict may lawfully exile you. And yet consider what actually governs your day. The craving for approval, the dread of loss, the restless ache to control every outcome. Epictetus would ask gently which of these commands you, and whether your freedom is legal only, or also, in his own sense, inward. So try this once today. When a stinging impression arrives, name it plainly, and ask what part of it is truly up to you. He does not promise this makes you painless. He offers only the one inward freedom that no master ever reached. Where will you begin?